Good evening. This is March 4th, 2024, and the Civics Art Commission meeting, and we're meeting at the City Council Chambers, 200 Old Bernal Avenue. The meeting will be held in person and streamed live at https://www.youtube.com/user/the City of Pleasanton. Public participation, it is requested that members of the public wishing to address the City Arts Commission submit a speaker card in person at the meeting. When public comment is opened on an agenda item, individuals may speak once per agenda item. You may submit a physical speaker card to the clerk at the meeting, and I have some here. Has everyone that wishes to speak, have they submitted a card yet? Okay, good. Call to order. Willing, would you stand and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to my flag and the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Song. Rachel, could you go ahead with the roll call?
Commissioner Bianchi.
Present.
Commissioner Farley-Rogers. Present. Commissioner Fry.
Present.
Commissioner Giancola.
Present.
Commissioner Mondadin.
Present.
Vice Chair Simmons.
Present.
Commissioner Song.
Present.
Commissioner Yee. Chair Coleman Knight.
Present.
Thank you.
Are there any agenda amendments?
There are none.
Thank you. We'll move to minutes now. Approve the regular meeting minutes of February the 5th, 2024. Are there any comments from commissioners? I would like to make a comment. Commissioner Fry's name is spelled F-R-Y, and it appears in two places. Just a simple typo. If you can correct that, I'd appreciate it. Okay. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 5th, 2024 regular meeting with the two changes that you recommended. Spelling of the name correctly.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Could you give me a roll call, please?
Commissioner Rogers.
Aye.
Commissioner Fry.
Aye.
Commissioner Giancola.
Aye.
Commissioner Mondadin.
Aye.
Vice Chair Simmons.
Aye.
Commissioner Song.
Aye.
Chair Coleman Knight.
Aye. We'll now move to meeting open to the public. Introductions, awards, recognitions, presentations. Rachel, are there any concerns in this area?
There are none tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is public comment from the audience regarding items not on the agenda. Speakers are encouraged to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Do we have a speaker that would like to step forward?
We have no speaker cards.
Okay, thank you. Matters for Commission's review, action, and information. Item number 4, discussion, funding Pleasanton's future. Rachel, can you lead us on this one?
I'll go ahead and take that one. Thank you very much for having me here this evening. I'm Heidi Murphy. I'm your Library and Recreation Director here in the City of Pleasanton. It's great to be here with the Civic Arts Commission this evening and to have members of the community. So this is relevant for all of you. I'll likely be addressing the commissioners, but I'm speaking to you too. So we'll get started. So I'm here to have a conversation with you this evening. I'm going to start by sharing a little bit about Pleasanton's financial future, but then we want to hear from you as residents, engaged community members, anyone who's invested in the sustainability of this community. So what we'll talk about today is the state of our city, an overview of city services, programs, and needs, and then I'm going to ask you what you think and what you need to know. So this is where we're going to find consensus and how we have each come to appreciate the city of Pleasanton. It's the high quality of life, the blend of historic character and modern amenities, and abundant parks and open space combined with arts and recreation. We're an economic hub in the East Bay. We're a diverse and desirable city, and we all want to keep it this way. The city's mission is to prioritize residents and businesses by delivering public services to support a safe, sustainable, and inclusive community. What does this mean for you? This means safe neighborhoods, help in an emergency, streets and road maintenance, quality parks, open spaces and recreation venues, and programs for youth and seniors. As many of you have heard, last year the City Council adopted a new 5-year strategic plan, One Pleasanton. There are 5 goal areas that will drive the city's work over the coming years: public safety and emergency preparedness, infrastructure, public facilities, and sustainability, which really we want to make sure that we're maintaining our facilities so the city can continue to offer programs and services to the community while keeping a focus on environmental sustainability as we do this. Fiscal sustainability, we all want to be financially sound. And then livability and community development. We want to continue to foster community engagement by incorporating community needs into planning of new services and programs and developing our community in a way that benefits all residents and businesses. And then organizational effectiveness. We want to keep hiring top talent and encourage innovation in our workspace so that the city can continue to deliver quality services to the community. So the city has a long-standing history of prudent, responsible performance, and our 2-year budget is balanced, meaning the current fiscal year we're in that ends on June 30th and the new one that begins on July 1st of this calendar year. But there have been financial changes since the pandemic, coupled with a growing list of needs and aging infrastructure. The city's revenue sources are limited and fixed, but expenses continue to grow from multiple causes, including inflation, increased pension liability and insurance costs, new labor agreements, expansion into new service areas over time, infrastructure, maintenance, and replacement, unfunded directives from the state, such as waste, recycling, and housing. At the same time, our top 3 sources of revenue are fairly flat. So property tax continues to grow at only a modest rate. Sales tax is flat. Adding the new Costco will help, but it's nowhere near enough. And the hotel tax never rebounded from the pandemic. We're down about $2 million a year, and we lost about $11 million in hotel tax during the time of the pandemic. So what does this look like? So if you can see this graphic here, can the commissioners? Oh yeah, you can see it on your screens. So there's a gap. So not this current fiscal year, not the one we're heading into, but in fiscal year 25-26, we are looking at about a $10 million a year structural operating deficit in the city. And that's shown here. It's kind of standard. You can see throughout the next multiple years, it's trending at about that $10 million gap. And so this is from a lot of things. There's a decline in Stone Ridge Shopping Center sales activities, which impacts our property tax or sales tax, delayed development, transitioning from a growing community to a mature community, pension costs, increased staffing costs, COVID, and inflation. So with that as a backdrop, I want to share with you what we as a city and as a community need funding to continue to deliver. So the first is our public safety. That includes your Rapid 1 911 response, maintaining police patrols and fire protection services to keep neighborhoods safe, emergency and disaster preparedness, crime prevention, and updating and modernizing police information and dispatch systems. For streets and roads, this includes repaving and maintaining roads, repairing potholes, improving pedestrian safety with safe sidewalks and crosswalks. For parks and open space, this includes maintaining the city's 46 neighborhood and community parks to the level we do today, repairing park systems and equipment, replacing aging paths and trails, and preserving our open space. We have over 60 miles of trails and more than 700 acres of undeveloped open space here in the city of Pleasanton. Our community infrastructure, this means maintaining and replacing aging infrastructure, including facilities such as the police and fire stations, the city's library, aquatic center, senior center, and other buildings. We also need to continue to promote economic vitality in our community, so supporting local businesses across the city and in our downtown, attracting new companies and promoting economic activity to provide jobs and sustain a robust economy. Youth and senior services, so maintaining library services and access to materials and technology. Last year, nearly 300,000 people visited the Pleasanton Public Library. Delivering programs and services for seniors. Last year, more than 66,000 seniors were served through our senior center. And continuing programs for children and teens. Last year, we served nearly 19,000 youth and teens through library and recreation programs. But our city's facing some tough choices. So without adequate increases in revenue over time, our city programs and services are suffering from a severe and increasing structural deficit, and infrastructure and facilities are seriously underfunded. So what are we doing to address these issues? The first thing we're doing is we're conducting fee studies to make sure that we're adequately charging users for the services and programs that they use. We're developing additional cost containment strategies for this upcoming fiscal year, which begins July 1st, 2025. In addition to fee studies, we're looking at additional revenue sources. We're exploring concepts such as sponsorships of programs and facilities, looking at expanding grant funding where possible, and bringing new businesses to town. But this is not enough. So we are considering a possible November ballot measure. We need to maintain a balanced budget to deliver services to the community. And as we continue to study possible solutions to address the operating budget, one option being discussed is a half-cent sales tax increase. That would be from 10 1/4 to 10.75. And this would generate about $10 million a year and address that structural operating deficit. No decisions have been made yet. For the next several months, we're going to be out listening to the community, hearing what people have to say, what questions that they have, and ultimately it'll be up to City Council to decide if they want to put this on the ballot in November. The sales tax measure would be approximately $5 in sales tax paid on every $1,000 of taxable purchases, and this would be for residents, non-residents, anyone coming to the City of Pleasanton and buying taxable goods. This does not include prescription medicines, prescription devices, or groceries. So those are all exempt from sales tax. And what's interesting about this tax is that that entire $5 per thousand would come back to the city directly. It wouldn't be split between any other county operations. So that $5 comes straight back to the city. And there are several other Alameda County cities who have increased to the 10.75 sales tax rate. You can see them there on your screen. So again, no decisions have been made yet. I'm here to hear from you. I want to know, what do you think? What are your questions? What do you need to know to be educated about this topic? So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Are you asking the commission members as well as the audience?
I'm asking the commission if the audience wants to speak, they'd have to turn in a speaker card, and then we could talk to them during public comment.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, I'm curious. When was last time the sales tax increase? I'm just curious.
That's a great question. I will jot down your question. The City of Pleasanton has never gone out for a revenue measure, so we've never increased it as a city, but the county does increase sales tax time to time, and I'm not sure the last time the county increased. It's a good question.
Is this something that may sunset or have an ending period?
Yes, so council would decide that when they put it on if and when they put it on the ballot, they would decide if it was going to have a sunset and what that sunset term would be.
I would like some mention of the vitality of arts mentioned in this presentation, and what you're telling the public, that one of the things that is so nice about Pleasanton, in addition to these things that you've mentioned, is how important arts are. So I would like some mention of that.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Do you have an estimate from Costco?
Yes, so Costco is a unique one because we have a revenue sharing agreement with them. So they funded the vast majority of the infrastructure that went in, the streets, the roads, all of that. So we are expecting that it will be about $900,000 a year while we have that cost sharing, and then once we've kind of paid back our debt through that cost sharing agreement, it will increase from there.
Okay, and one other question. What are the city's reserves right now?
That's a great question, too, that I will jot down for you. I don't have all the financial data, so I can't provide that for you this evening, but I'm just collecting questions.
Do you know, did they to balance the budget this past year, did they dip into the reserves?
Again, I'm not the right person to, but I will get that. I will definitely send those questions along.
On August 21st, 2023, the Civic Art Commission signed a letter and sent it up to City Council for consideration for percent for art. We're very concerned about revenue that could be generated as a result of contractors involved in various business in the city of Pleasanton. Neighboring cities do this. And as you well know, it's Livermore, Dublin, the Tri-Valley people. And beyond that, when we took a look at Alameda County, we were the only city that was not asking a percent for art. So I do know that it went to the city council. It was considered. My understanding was that it was going to be on an upcoming fee schedule with consideration. Can you tell us where it stands now?
We just started that impact fee study with an outside consultant. So they look at all of the development fees that go along with that. And so they're studying them all right now. That's underway.
And when will that be done?
I'm not managing that project, so I'm not sure.
My understanding is that it might be June. And is that a reasonable timeline that you know of?
I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
I think you're going to get a lot of pushback on this. That's would be my comment. I know artists are not going to be happy with, you know, it's already a fine line of making sales in arts, and now to I don't know. I think you're going to have a uphill battle on getting public support. It seems high, but I can see the dilemma.
Is there any information that would be helpful in having more than what you have here? Obviously, we've gotten some great questions today, but any other items that would be helpful?
Yeah, so another question would be, what if the measure, we don't have the measure, how the city, what's the plan B?
That's come up a lot, and we are working through those details right now. We don't have an exact, what would that look like yet.
Kind of dovetailing on Commissioner Giancola's comment, when you took a look at the survey that has just gone out to Pleasanton, I noticed that the arts don't literally appear at all. We're talking about water and roads and seniors and youth, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that all of that's a worthy consideration, but the elimination of the arts, which is actually the pulse of the city in many different kinds of ways. It does help small businesses and does help with the vitality in the community, and certainly it impacts the general well-being of the city, and has been left out. And so I'd like to raise that as a concern. It's in the survey, and yet it's not in the survey, and it should be in the survey in one way or another.
Thank you for that feedback.
Are there any other comments? Well, it seems you're going back with a little bit of homework.
Yes, this is great. So this is what we're doing. Every time we talk with people, we get new questions and new comments and new ways of looking at things, and that's exactly what we want. So thank you very much for your time. I do want to leave you all with this information. We don't want this to be the end of the conversation. So if you go home tonight, walk the dog, and think of something, or probably not tonight, but maybe tomorrow. I think you might be here a little late. Think of something, please. Feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Rachel. You can go to our city's website. You can go to our revenue measure feasibility webpage. You can reach out to the city manager's office. The email and phone number are up here, but you can always get a hold of us. So please feel free to reach out if you have oh my gosh, I didn't think about this concern, or I have this question. This is great feedback for us.
Well, I'd like to extend that invitation to anybody within our hearing distance here, whether you're in the room, at home, reconsider this and think about the arts and in our case, how really, really important it is, and yet it's not appearing on any of the, look at what is happening. So I'd like to see it show up,
Well, thank you all very much for having me here tonight. I appreciate the feedback.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes number 4 on our item, discussion funding Pleasanton's future. And we're going to move now to item 5, and that's review and allocate community grant funds in the civics art category for fiscal year 2024-2025 and recommend city council approval. And Commissioner Giancola, I know you have a comment to make.
Yes, thanks. So I am a full-time employee of Livermore Valley Arts, who is a grant applicant, so I have to recuse myself from the grant application process.
And so you're actually going to leave at this particular time.
I'm actually
too.
going to leave.
Okay. You recused yourself, but you didn't move. Okay. Well, thank you for that announcement. Okay. I also have a little bit of a read that I have to do for you, but I'm currently uncompensated board member of the nonprofit Pleasanton Cultural Arts Council. I question my participation in voting to review and allocate community grant funds in the civics art category for fiscal year 2023-2024. Pleasanton Assistant City Attorney Larissa Seto sent a letter to the State of California Fair Political Practice Commission for advice. The senior counsel of the FPPC Legal Division's response on March 2nd, 2023, specifically stated, I'm allowed to engage in all discussions and vote on all grant applications, including the Pleasanton Cultural Arts application. I recontacted Larissa Seto on January 12, 2024, with comment on this year's participation. Her response was, quote, with the Fair Political Practices Commission's 2023 letter and your explanation that your connection with the Pleasanton Cultural Arts Council is unchanged, we do not need to obtain another opinion from the FPPC, end of quote. For the sake of complete transparency, I recused myself from the evaluation and scoring of 2 PCAC 2024-25 grant applications and will not vote on the PCAC applications when they are discussed as a single item during our meeting this evening. Thank you. And now that I've sort of cleaned house in that respect, I think we can move on to our very busy schedule here. Okay. Would you introduce the item for us, Rachel?
Thank you very much, Chair Coleman Knight. Good evening, Commission. This next item before you tonight is the Community Grant Program for 2024-25. The report in front of you summarizes the 11 applications that were received under the Community Grant Program in the Civic Arts category. The 11 applications are from 8 different agencies, and they were all received by the deadline of January 19th, 2024, and they total $61,225 in requests. 6 agencies submitted 1 application. The Pacific Chamber Orchestra submitted 3 applications, and the Pleasanton Cultural Arts Council submitted 2 applications. The available funding tonight that you have to look at is $40,000. The assessment by commissioners, the evaluation process that you see here in your charts includes the assessment by commissioners of each application that was received using Zoom grants. Staff has also reviewed the applications and provided a recommendation in this report. The Commission may choose to use this data as a starting point for discussion towards providing its final funding recommendation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them about the report.
Do any of the commissioners have a question? Okay, thank you. We have a new applicant this year, and that is Shea Tsunami Foundation. And following our protocol, the new applicant will have 5 minutes to do a presentation and introduce themselves to the commission. And the speaker card I have here, it looks like, would you come and pronounce your name entirely for me? Is it Jamie?
Oh, yeah, Jamie.
There, okay, thank you. Jamie Mather. And the second name is Caitlin? Catherine, okay, thank you. Give me your whole name, Catherine, thank you. All right, thank you very much, I appreciate it. You have 5 minutes.
You had some slides that you were going to put up? Thank you. Just a point of clarification, this is, I think, our 4th application, but we had a hiatus of a few years. And then COVID, we've not re-engaged with the city. So commissioners, thank you for your time. We're very, very honored to be able to come back and re-engage with new faces of the Commission for the Arts. My name is Catherine Wanjukundongo Case, and I'm the founder of Chezanami Foundation and also a 23-year resident of Pleasanton. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So a little bit about who we are. We are a local nonprofit where community engagement meets cultural celebration. We promote diversity in our communities through celebration of cultures with a special focus on the cultures of Africa and her diaspora. We have lots of partnerships in the community, including the Pleasanton Unified School District, and our talk today will be focused on the program that we're partnering with them. We aim to preserve and encourage appreciation of African culture and encourage communities to celebrate our differences while remembering to keep each of our individual stories as part of the narrative. Next slide, please. We have over 13 years of experience, and we've been pioneering diverse community engagement activities with a focus on providing free or low-cost community programs, equitable opportunities for artists, using art as a transformative tool, and celebrating the richness of diverse cultures. One of our biggest goals is to make sure in this underrepresented art forms that artists have a means for a living, and so most of our partners are community members who would typically not find opportunities such as this one elsewhere. Next slide, please. So our history of our journey speaks volumes. Over the last decade or so, we've impacted over 100,000 individuals. Just in last year alone, we impacted over 20,000 individuals, most of whom were K through 12 students, with over 4,000 programs to date. And all of our programs have global reach. We also engage with community members outside of Pleasanton and in the global space itself. We are stewards. We have very common sense with respect to expenditure, 90% of which is dedicated to programming. And we've got an expanding donor network as well as partnerships, and today we hope to forge that partnership with the commission, the Civic Arts Commission of Pleasanton. So we engage with diverse audiences in our community, including organizations, schools, the general public, with programs spanning from enrichment, curriculum-based programs in the school, as well as residency programs in the schools, to community festivals. And if you've not joined our Taste of Africa Festival here in the Tri-Valley, the 13th one is coming along, and we hope that you can join us in celebrating community. We've been recognized for our work, not only in several awards, and you can see those on your screen, but also opportunities to be leading experts in engagement discussion around how to engage with communities around culture and to do it responsibly. Next slide, please. I'm going to now transfer it over to Jamie, and Jamie is going to talk about our PUSD partnership.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Jamie Mather. I'm an administrator in Pleasanton Unified School District. We've been lucky enough to work with Chezanami Foundation for a program that we called the Black Excellence Program. So Catherine and I worked together to develop this program for Pleasanton Unified students and families. We started it as a pilot, actually, in the summer of 2023, so last summer, and then we've been running it throughout this school year. Using school district general fund funding. However, that funding may not be there next year, so that's why we are coming to the Civic Arts Commission for assistance. Now, the Black Excellence Program is a monthly program where the Chezanami Foundation hosts notable figures in the African American and African community in the Bay Area to come and meet with PUSD families. Obviously, the target focus is African and African American PUSD families. However, all are welcome to join us for these awesome sessions. We started a stepping program, so it's like historically black college and university Greek life stepping. And then this is a corollary to that happens afterwards. So a figure from the African or African American community comes in, talks about what they do, who they are, their life story. There's an arts focus the majority of the time, and then there's Shezanami staff run a family activity. It's open to all ages. We differentiate by age level. This year we have about 15 to 20 students and their families and siblings participating regularly every month. We expect that to grow next year as awareness of our programs gets a little bit wider across the community. Some highlights from this school year. We've had some pretty amazing figures come in and speak with our families. Tammy Hall is a Grammy Award-winning jazz pianist who's the lead educator at SF Jazz. Alex Tate is the choral director of Course Eclectic and actually just performed at the Firehouse Arts Center on a history of spirituals in the United States. And then Catherine alluded or said the global space, and that is very true. The Kenyan Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife, and Heritage came and spoke with our kids and families as well. This is something that we, as a school district, find incredibly important. There are opportunity gaps in our system. There are opportunity gaps in our society. We want to do our best to make sure that all students not only receive the best possible education, but see themselves in the curriculum and see themselves as dignified members of our school communities. And that's not just the students, that's their families as well. The Black Excellence Project is a targeted, innovative, and equitable way to keep doing that for PUSD. But we do need some support. And so that's why, as a partnership, we're coming to the Civic Arts Commission to humbly ask for your generosity.
Are we taking questions or do this? Okay, we'll take questions. Thank you.
I have a question. Jamie, you're currently employed in the Pleasanton Unified School District?
I am.
Okay. What kind of discussion have you entertained regarding the Proposition 28, which is $1 billion that's coming statewide, including the arts? And I'm wondering, with an existing partnership of yourself, you know, the Shea Tsunami and the Pleasanton Unified School District, have you explored that opportunity?
We have. This is district programming. Prop 28 is within Pleasanton Unified is being given by school site, so that's one thing. So it's been a little bit difficult to have that funding. In addition, the majority of that funding has to be used on certificated staff. And so that's staff with teacher credentials. As of right now, we don't have any internal staff that can run a program.
I understand that 80% of it is hiring new staff in the arts, but 20% is from materials.
Yeah. So if I could just add that, so Chesadami has partnerships across multiple districts, Pleasanton being one of them. And so this is a conversation we're having with actually all of the school districts that we partner with. 20% of that is where the individual school sites have the opportunity to partner with a vendor, which is where we would come in. But this is a district-wide program at the district level, and not necessarily at a particular school site. So if we were to engage, say, with a Black Excellence program for Amador High School, that would be a conversation with Amador, but that means that it's just for those students. So this program in partnership with PUSD is to access or to service all the students across the district.
I'm encouraged that the conversation has begun.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me there's some good possibility with
There's
this.
some good possibilities, but
Yes.
you will be surprised at how many school districts are struggling with how to interpret the guidelines. And so for us as community partners, when we come in and we talk to a school site about Prop 28, we have very specific guiding principles to help inform them on how they could leverage a resource such as ourselves or others in the community. But very much exciting. However, how that pans out will be driven by how school districts understand how they can employ what will be available to them.
Good, good, good. I'm glad the conversation is happening.
Great question. Thank you.
did you guys bring that? Because I heard on the radio for community leadership. Yeah.
I believe that was in 2017. I will stand corrected. I know there is a little video snippet from CBS with regards to that. And that, for anybody who's received that, is an incredible honor to be recognized by, it's a national platform, and this is our version, the Jefferson Award that's done through CBS News, is for San Francisco Bay Area. And so to have the opportunity to have our work recognized, and when we talk about the arts, we already know that arts are underrepresented. I heard you talk about, Pleasanton and how we're doing with respect to, even championing folks who are doing building, or contractors who are doing building work in the Tri-Valley to support from that respect. And we know that Pleasanton hasn't quite leveraged that opportunity. And so to be one of those providers who can say, we have an art offering, and we want to be the champions toward making that available and accessible to the community, was the trigger for that award. And we've continued to do that to date. So if you want to learn more, I'd be happy to make that available, the video accessible to you. There's a link, and you can learn more about our specific coverage.
Well, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any more questions?
Your program is at every school in Pleasanton?
It's housed centrally, so we house it at Hearst Elementary on Thursday nights, but it's open to students and families from all schools in Pleasanton.
And just to add to that, this particular program is very unique because it is directly engaging with the Pleasanton Unified School District for a district-wide program. We do have offerings at other school sites that are part of other program offerings, but folks often are not able to make that connection between us being at a school site and, say, partnering with PUSD over goals that are more overarching, overreaching. And we're talking about opportunities to drive student engagement in the schools, improved academic, outreach for the students. And so this goes beyond just the programs that we do at a school site, that, a school site is focused on just having us there for a short time and then we're out. And to have something that's going on throughout the year is something that we're very excited about.
Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you. In reviewing your application, you've done some really unique, wonderful programs, and I applaud you. But I'm going to talk a little bit about budget, or try to get some questions answered about the budget. Because ultimately that's what this kind of comes down to, is us having to be responsible in delegating the funds. So with the small number of people that you're looking at serving, even if you reach your average of 45 people per session, if you get just the amount of money from this grant that you're requesting, that comes out to be about almost $200 per person. Your full budget at $20,000 comes out to be about $445 per person. How do you justify that high expense per person?
So I will talk about it from our organizational perspective. I justify that with value. If you take consideration for what it costs to go to, say, the Philharmonic, or a visit to the ballet for a single ticket, one presentation, it adds up. We're talking about bringing people who are excellent in what they do. So Tammy Hall was one of the folks that have participated as one of the members. She's a Grammy Award nominee. That's where most of the funding is going, is to ensure that we're bringing valuable connections to the students, as well as ensuring that materials that are needed are available. But the key driver is the valuable excellence that we're bringing to our students so that they can be able to see the potential.
What is it that you're going to do to attempt to open this to a larger number of students? I understand what your target audience, but again, I go back to that high cost per student, and if you're looking at educating students in a particular, demographic, you really need to educate all the students, obviously. And it looks like the programs that you've done in the past, larger programs with assemblies and things like that, were able to touch and reach more people. I'm just going back to, again, the really high cost for a very small number of people. So what are your plans to attempt to get a larger representation, larger number of people that are attending these programs?
So this year we've continued to grow the program. Next year we're going to work with every single one of our school sites to make sure that families are aware of the opportunity to attend the Black Excellence Program. We are not getting, at this point, all students within the sort of African-American demographic. Our plan is to grow that. We have a network of parent liaisons in the school district that reach out to families and let them know of our programming. We meet with our principals monthly to make sure that they're aware of our programs. Additionally, our students go out who are related to this in our STEP program and perform in the community to get the word out. That being said, it is for all families as well. And so we put information about the Black Excellence Program in our eConnect, which goes out to the entire PUSD community. We put it in the Peach Jar, again, which goes out to the entire community. We work with our early and expanded learning division to make sure that information goes out there about that. We highlight our programs in district-wide communication out to families, and then we're also working, again, with individual school site staffs to make sure that they are telling folks that this is an amazing option that's provided by PUSD.
Yeah, I think one year, I think the Chattanooga performed in one of the Pleasanton annual like New Year celebration. I remember seeing you guys. So yeah, I think you have valid question about hopefully you can encourage more other students also join your special program that would cover more people, because I did remember you guys perform in one of the Pleasanton annual Luna. And perhaps
Was that at the Amador Theater?
yeah.
I recall that.
Yeah, so hopefully your program, so your program is a monthly, or what? Maybe you can just like Jamie said, maybe encourage other students join too, right? Rather than limit to say 15 family might be a little bit too narrow the scope. Yeah.
And
On
that's
paper.
that's our strategic that's our strategy in terms of partnering with Pleasanton Unified School District. All of our programs are not limited to any one group of people. We absolutely believe in engaging with the community. That's where you get this dialogue to start. And so the partnership with PUSD gives us the access to families that would not typically be able to engage with. The conversation that's being driven by this program is very intentional, and absolutely opening it up to other families will allow us to really be able to drive that dialogue. And so by employing some of the strategies that Jamie has talked about, we hope that we can reach more students. Very targeted promotions and communication around everybody being welcome is one of the things we're going to be driving.
Well, thank you for your comments, and we appreciate answering all of our questions.
Thank you for the questions, and thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Thank you. And now we'll move on to other speaker cards. Natalie Yee. Is Natalie here? And you represent the East Bay Musical Society, Natalie? Okay.
So, so
And
nice to see
you actually have 3 minutes. I know the presentation before you was quite a bit longer.
I
but
would just like to update you from last year. So I only have one slide, just so you can see our. That's most of the flyer. So thank you. It's all really nice to see you again. And thank you again for last year for granting us our initial grant. I just wanted to update you. So we have been able to stay in existence. So we had a very good spring 2023, probably our largest participation as well as attendance for the choral concert that we had. It was a Witches and Wizards theme. And then in the fall, maybe cycling and everything, it was a little bit more of a struggle for us and everything like that. So the funding really helped us to be able to get through and pay the venues and keep us going. So when applying for this year, I really only wanted to ask for what we are seeing the increase in expenses for. We used a lot of the funding last time For marketing and advertising, we used this Pleasanton Weekly Livermore Wine and Peach Jar. Peach Jar, we still have credits for, we're using. We found a couple of students through that. Unfortunately, when we used the Pleasanton Weekly and Livermore Wine, it did not generate as much marketing and solicitation, so we did not continue that. And one of the new items that we're trying to is doing a referral program for our current members to bring in new members. So that's something different from last year. We've also had a change in the structure of our board. Last year, Dan Floyd, Dan Cookies, who used to be in Livermore, was the president. He has since stepped down. I am now currently the president of the East Bay Musical Society. We do have an additional board member who's here tonight, won't be speaking. His name is Jack Ray, Pleasanton resident also. So we currently have 2 board members, City of Pleasanton. I'm making different strides than we had before, trying to bring the East Bay Musical Society Broadway course back to Pleasanton. One of the exciting things I wanted to say about spring 2024 is that currently, before we were rehearsing in Livermore, and we also were performing our choir concert in Livermore, I'm very excited to say for spring, we actually will be in the Firehouse Arts Center. So I'm very excited about that. Hopefully that will bring a little more synergy, a little more Pleasanton community spirit out. And we're already on the website, so I'm seeing about that. The $4,000 grant really was to hold up with inflation and new items, to keep our choir director, musicians and artists. Pay isn't always the highest as other professions, so to keep synergy, to keep morale up, we did increase the salary for the choir director for each season. We have 2 seasons. And then to get into the firehouse and other venues, the costs were just increasing, so that's where the other part of the grant really would go for. So, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
So, which day will be in Firehouse?
We are actually on Sunday, May 19th. So I know the flyer is gone. That would be the Sunday after Mother's Day. So obviously we want to, and it's a matinee performance, so it wouldn't be evening considering it is Sunday. So it's on the website. The tickets are not on sale yet. We're going to open it up as soon as rehearsals begin. So rehearsals haven't started yet. We're still registering, and rehearsals will begin Mondays, March 18th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker card is with Brittany Mulgrew, Mulgrew. Did I pronounce it correctly? Okay, good. Very good. And you're with East Bay Jazz?
Yes.
The LVPAC East Bay Jazz.
Yes.
Okay.
Livermore Valley Performing Arts Center.
Yes.
Yes. So I was asked to come and give a little bit more insight on the grant that we sent in and requested funds for East Bay Jazz from the Civic Arts Commission. The East Bay Jazz Group is one that we have supported for several years now. Over about $50,000. The budget that was sent in with the grant application reflected more specifically this community concert that's going to be held here in Livermore. We're very, very passionate about youth in the arts. It's something that our board and our staff is very feels that is incredibly important. When a student or child gets to perform on a bigger stage, it's a completely different experience than maybe your multi-purpose room at your school. It gives a whole different vibe, and you also get, it's really, truly a different experience. And seeing these students perform can be, it means a lot to all of us, and it means a lot to their parents. From what the research that I've done, to my knowledge, it's one of the most unique programs in the area. I believe it was, I don't remember if it's 50 miles or 30 miles off the top of my head now, but within 30 miles, I can say for sure. There's not another program quite like this. It gives them the opportunity to prepare, to rehearse, to have someone instruct them. They get to travel around. They've performed at several different venues now. They regularly perform at the Bankhead Theater, and we also can use smaller groups to perform at some of our various events that we hold year long. So it's it's a wonderful thing to do, and it's something that, in listening to y'all a little bit earlier, it sounds like more art in Pleasanton would always be a good thing. So having a community concert at the firehouse would be a little something for everyone.
Are there any questions? I've been fortunate enough to be at different venues for the East Bay Jazz, and they're amazing musicians. If I just closed my eyes, I would be sure they were professionals.
Yes.
And they're what's encouraging is to see these young people come in and accelerate their skills, and then somehow another group comes in and they also are accelerating their skills. So
That's true.
yes, so I've been fortunate enough. I saw them at Chabot, for example, and also at Bankhead and other venues as well. So they're pretty amazing. And their age range is what? Freshmen to seniors?
Yes, they're all high school
Yes,
students.
yes. And it's competitive, my understanding?
Yes, there is an audition process. So they do have to audition, and then they're called back, and they get kind of vetted in that way too. So,
Have you done any tracking beyond high school and the college that they go to and so on as to, their impact in music? That would be interesting.
I don't personally have that information on me, but from what I've heard, they do all continue to play. As far as like if they participate in other concert like venues and whatnot after that, I don't have that information. But to my knowledge, because they are already musicians, they do continue to perform and play.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions?
Yeah, I remember last Chabot show. It was very fun.
Oh, yeah.
They were like jumping around, dancing, dance with the high school students.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Les Dumont, and that's for
Hi, everyone. Les Duman, and I've been living here in Pleasanton for 39 years, and I'm here on behalf of both the Pleasant Community Concert Band and the Pleasant Cultural Arts Council. So we'll start with the Community Concert Band 2. Both organizations have always been very collaborative and very cooperative, working with city, working with the school district, working with a number of the veterans, doing a lot of the civic events, and they've been doing it for 45 years. I wanted to thank you folks for last year's grant, which we used for a storage container. So in the first year of using that, we saved $3,800. So it means that every year we have this, your grant saves us $3,800. And this year we're doing something similar. Our next biggest cost will be music storage. It's all stored at Bob Williams' house. He is 92 years old. He's retired as a director. He's still doing well. But he always tells us every board meeting, guys, I'm going to be dead soon. You better figure out what to do with the music. So finding a facility is really tough. Most businesses, unless they own the building, they won't even consider it because it's their landlord's deal. Otherwise, there's liability issues. Otherwise, we don't always have access. So we need some place where we can have constant access. We did some tests with some duplicate music where we sat it in basically an oven, just to check what the science was behind the music deteriorating. And two things. One, seemed to be no negative effect. Number two, we can go out and buy new copies if something horrible happened. The stuff that's out of print, we already make duplicates of. So by virtue of getting a container for music, it'll be the same type of scenario. It's not saving us money we're already spending, but it's saving us money we know we're going to have to spend someday soon. And we only got a 6-month notice. Bob has it set up with his son, where whenever he passes away, he cannot do anything with that house for at least 6 months so that we can keep our music there in case we haven't figured anything out. Okay, PCAC real quick. Again, it's pretty simple this year. For those of you who have seen my grants before, I kind of meld multiple sub-grants in there, sort of. But this time it's for one thing. It's a newsletter. Again, because we've been collaborating more with the city and some of their cultural arts programs, and because of our collaborations with other groups, it'll be synergistic. In other words, it won't just help us. The newsletter one, it'll give our members something, our contributors. It'll tell them what we're doing. It'll tell them what every arts group in the community is doing, and that hopefully will create more synergy within us. So we're doing more collaborative events and more co-productions. That's it. I get 22 seconds. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Oh, do you have any questions?
Commissioner E?
I was just wondering about the storage. So all of the documents are paper music, is that?
Correct.
So have you explored a digital option of like having them all scanned?
Yes.
And because
Yes,
that to me
we have.
seems like a one-time cost and then you would be done and everything would be stored.
Okay, so yes, we have looked into that. So first off, remember the Pleasant Community Concert Band has about a roster of about 80 musicians, but on a regular basis is about 60 musicians. It means all 60 musicians will need tablets. It means that somebody's going to have to be paid to convert, download, scan all that music. It comes in initial different formats. Some of the paper is yellowish, some of it's white. And then it's a matter of needing electricity, needing batteries. So we've looked at the total cost. And having been equipment manager for the band for a few years long ago, it's keeping track of that, getting all the information from each individual. And then you have the technology issue where what's going to the lifespan of today's tablet going to be? Are we going to have to replace them every 5 years? Now, we do something now where we can buy music online. So rather than having the printed music sent to us, most of the large music publishing houses now have an digital version. So new music, we bring on e-copies. But the amount of room it takes up is, Bob Williams has a 2-car garage. He barely has space between the files to open them if he opens these. So it takes almost a 20 by 20 foot space.
Commissioners, do we have any more questions?
Well, I was just going to say too, I remember seeing that there's a couple of high school kids that started a scanning business.
That started what?
A scanning business, right? They scan documents for
yeah,
people.
Yeah, that's it. Like I said, well, maybe we want to
Right.
have to pay
I
someone
mean-
to scan, the kids can scan.
Right, or maybe there's other volunteers or people in the community that would be happy to scan, and it seems like it wouldn't be super difficult to get, donations for tablets for people.
I'm not going to ask you to guess. So, within a normal concert piece, there'll be as many as 30 different parts. For each part, sometimes there's duplicates, so you'll have as many as 80 different folders. Okay, so for your average piece of music, it's still going to be 80 folders. Some of them are 1 page, some are 2 pages, some are 4 pages. We have, I think, over 3,000 compositions. 3,000 times 80 times multiple pages. So it'll be a few years of school kids. But no, that is an idea, and we've talked about it. And some of our musicians, whenever they get a piece of music, they do it right then and there. And they got their little foot pedal, and they've got a tablet. And they're the kind of people 2 or 3 years from now, as soon as there's a new tablet, they're going to want it. So, yeah, so we have looked into that. The cost would be much, much higher than the cost of a container.
So my question is about the placement and the maintenance of the container. And that's what you're looking for, is a container
Correct.
versus an empty office?
Correct. So previously, we used grant money for container for a lot of our equipment, and we're concerned a little bit about some of that. So we just read whatever the knowledge is out there. The containers are airtight, watertight. I mean, you can put vents in them because you don't necessarily want them watertight. And we've managed with a local property owner, we have it stored it's on a hardtop surface, it's raised up, and it's under large shade trees. We put thermometers in there just to check. We painted the side that faces the sun white, and yeah, it doesn't get 154 degrees is where you have to start thinking about anything. Like for a human being to feel something that feels hot, that's 154 degrees. And then we did the test with some duplicates of music that we put in our equipment container the entire last year.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Kelly Cousins, the Pleasanton Cultural Arts Council.
Good evening. Thank you for reviewing the grants. I know how hard this is a challenge. I used to do it for the Human Services Commission, so I know you're working very hard. And we appreciate all the the money that the city is giving Pleasanton Cultural Arts Council over the years. And we have a couple new projects because we like to come up with some new projects. And this year, I don't know if you remember in the past, we've had the temporary signposts. When everything closed down during COVID, we had pointing the way to creativity, and that was our signposts that showed the different locations of public art. Well, there hasn't really been much since then. The Harringtons had a tour of some of their public art, but we thought that since the Museum on Main and Charles Huff originally started the historic walking tour, that it would be a great to combine a public art installation tour for Pleasanton, and they meld quite nicely together too. And these are free tours that people can sign up for through the Museum on Main, and it really helps celebrate who we are as Pleasanton, our history, and of course art helps us recognize that quickly. And we have some different types of art throughout the city, and they all have unique messages. And we also have a lot of information that certain people have written about the art and the installations that are people don't even recognize those now because they kind of get lost. They don't know who the artist is, how they came to be. So we feel that this would be an excellent combination, and but we also think we can improve on the Museum on Main's presentation by having an iPad. You know, we want to get into the 21st century and having instead of a big binder that they're carrying around. I don't know how many of you have gone on this historical tour, but one person has to manipulate all this information in a big binder, and so we're proposing that we have a smaller binder or a smaller iPad and a larger iPad that can hold a lot of different images and information and be used for at least 5 years. And also the Museum on Main could also have that information available for the people that come in that aren't on that tour. So we just want to continue to enhance people's understanding of the arts and our cultural programming that's going on. There's a two-part to this grant. Another one is that Pleasanton Cultural Arts Council has been either creating their own cultural arts events, or we have collaborated with the city and various groups throughout the city to showcase some of the cultural groups and the diversity as well as the common connections that we have. And so another part of the grant is to also have some funds so we can enhance those cultural arts and culturally to show everybody that we have a rich tapestry of ethnic and cultural and traditions that need to be celebrated. And we've enjoyed working with the city, but I think we need to have some extra funds to help with that, and then also promote the events. We've noticed that different events get more attendees. You know, the library is a great place. Sometimes it's too small. Of course, the firehouse, the Alviso Adobe, it's a beautiful location, the Hispanic heritage there, but we can't always get people to go there. And I know we've had the city's newsletter, but we want to promote those events as well, because I think they're very enriching and they're exciting for kids to see. And so that's another part of our having marketing and promotional materials for these events. So
Commissioners, are there questions?
Yeah, sorry.
I have questions.
I went over a little bit.
So you have met with the Museum on Main and flushed all of this out, and they're fully on board with this?
They're excited about it.
Have you have you met with any representatives from the city or discussed the city and their potential options for a mobile public art map, QR codes? My question is, are we duplicating here? Are we potentially duplicating what the city might be doing?
Do you want me to answer
Have you
that, or
met
does
Have you met
Rachel
with
wanna
people from the
answer
city regarding this
I don't
initiative?
think it would be duplicating because it's focused on the already established tour. That would be my feedback on that.
So as a historic tour goes around the city,
Right.
we also point out, and there's been no other city event that's, there's been private people that have done some, like the Harringtons, but that's hasn't been done. And I mean, the QR codes are a great idea. We're certainly going to bring up the information, and eventually maybe there'll be a QR code. And I think people like to engage with a tour guide, basically.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I attend one of the historic walking tour, and actually thanks to Jane, she really promote all the public arts. She, talk with
The write-ups.
yeah, Museum of Maine, ask them to add those public art, to speak like during the tour. So I do see that happening. So I'm very excited, with this project, especially, with incorporate the historical stops as well as with the public arts. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, and we're hoping to get more engagement with volunteers too. So people to want to be a docent.
Commissioners, do you have more questions?
So is the Museum on Main not giving their walking tours anymore?
Yes,
and this
they
is and this is replacing
This
it?
will start in July. It's not replacing anything. We're doing it together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's just the art component.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so basically, when I was at the tour, actually, I was one of the person helping the tour guide, Rachel. She carried this like at least like a 5 pound or 10 pound like a binder. So she would just because there's so much information, so she would read some of the information and then share the picture to us. But then it's like a 2 hour tour, right? So it was a hot day. So sometimes she needs to drink water. So I would hold on the binder for her. But then Jane had a great idea. I thought if there's a iPad, it will be a lot easier, right? You just look at the iPad, just pick a picture rather than this 5 to 10 pound.
Commissioner Song, during this particular period, we should be asking questions. And if we can limit our personal comments, it would be appreciated. So really what we want to do is ask a question of the speaker that will help us better understand their grant and their proposal. Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions, commissioners?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to need some help with this the last part of this name. All right, so it's a committee of two, Linda. We don't know what your last name is. Come on up. She's with Tri-Valley Open Studio. And please introduce yourself. So I do apologize. What is your last name?
Ryan.
Ah, there we go. Okay.
So, hi, I'm Linda Ryan. I'm with Tri-Valley Artist Studio Tour, and it's put on by Alliance for the Visual Arts. I accepted the directorship this last November, and the reason I found that open studios are really, really, really important. And for me personally, back in 2002, I started Art Walk Livermore because our open studios was canceled in our area. And there were a lot of really disappointed artists, and for me especially, I just really started to engage with people at open studios and be able to, one of our artists just posted this quote that she was able to find her people and her people found her. And it means when you paint, you're starting a conversation. When you do any kind of art, you're starting a conversation. And if it's done silently, if it's just on one wall, and nobody ever sees it, it's not really conversing, is it? It's just there. And having people actually engage with your art, you really do find your people. You find who resounds with your art. You know, when you've seen art that just really hits you, and you go back to that studio again the next year, and maybe the next year you could even actually afford to buy it. It's not just about the sales, although those are really great. But I wanted to make sure that I said I am really passionate about open studios, okay? I think they're super great for artists and the community as well. And I wanted to mention also just a couple updates. I'm going to make this pretty short. Just a couple updates. Added to the different types of marketing we're doing this year, we've decided to take on the sides of the Wheels buses. And if your Buena Center and SF MoMA can do it, we figure it's okay too. And so we're actually trying some new creative ways to get marketing out there. And also, we just this last month brought in San Ramon, the Dougherty Station, as a venue for artists as well. So that's another collaboration to add on to that list of collaborators. And questions?
I have a question. Right, commissioners, maybe this is just leads to some other thoughts, but your grant request included the conversation regarding art cycling, and I think that's an interesting idea.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you've opened up that conversation with some of the biking clubs around,
Yes.
because, you know, doing the Cinderella and that kind of thing, that there are certain ground rules and safety conditions that you have to be aware of. I'd also bring to your attention a National Ski Patrol has a bike patrol, and which is an interesting thought. I mean, during non-snow times, they're very well trained in safety and could be of assistance to you. So I'm kind of wondering if you've taken the next steps to think about that and what it would take. It's quite an undertaking. Can you fill us in on what you've been thinking?
Sure. The person that started this tour, the bike tour last year, she has participated multiple times in Cinderella. She's very, very familiar. She's a plein air painter, and she has this whole kit on the back of this really crazy bike that she takes out into the hills to paint. And so she's very well versed, and she's the one that's really running that program. And she works with, I can't think of the people that provide the bike maps. Sorry. No, it's not Cinderella. It's the GPS. Anyway, she's got it. She's on it, and she's working with the different bike shops and things like that too. And she's got a long list of bike groups on social media. And
So there's certainly been some consideration about, you know, routes and safety and those kind of things.
Yes. In fact, last year she left one of the sites, the studio tour sites, off the map because that is a well-known intersection amongst bikers that it's just kind of, you're risking your life if you go across that street.
Okay.
So, yeah. No, she's good. She's good. We got it.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our next speaker is going to be Lawrence Cole for Pacific Chamber Orchestra.
Yeah. Hello, thank you for the supports over the years. I just wanted to go over with you some updates in terms of impact, in terms of need, and of course finances. If you have this, does this go up for everybody to see or not? So, okay, so this is, you know, when you talk about impact, you know, I could bring all the feedback forms of it's awesome, it's wonderful, the teachers say come back, but you know, a little drawing like this from a elementary school first grader, You know, if you notice, she's smiling, her off the ground. There's the sun there. She's got a flute coming out of her ear. You know, and that's really incredible because we're all talking about ear training. That's what music really is, right? And so she sees herself. Now, this is a kid who is happy coming to school, and what we bring is something that is special, that helps make coming to school a happy place to be. And we see that when we go to these schools, these elementary schools for our Discover Music program, more kids sign up for the music programs. We can tell that from the feedback forms we get from the teachers. And we teach the music fundamentals. Every year, different fundamentals. So they're learning things. In fact, these minutes, this came up as a question, these can be used as instructional minutes that are assembly times in our teacher education packets. And we know the demand is very high for this program. More schools every year ask for it than we could do according to the grants. If this was fully funded, it would come to about $3 a student to have the assemblies go according to our proposal to you, just to give you an idea of the numbers and the impact. The other program is our full orchestra matinee that I'd like to talk about for 1 minute. And that is, we saw the increase in the demand for that double this year. In fact, we usually do about 300 students for the full orchestra matinee, and the demand was so great we had to find a way to put in 2 assemblies. So we're now going to be seeing 750 students for the full orchestra. This is an incredible music, violinist star coming in to play some of the Brook Violin Concerto. And, you know, this is incredibly inspirational. This comes to $10 a student to hear a professional orchestra right here. And you know, obviously what it would take to go to San Francisco. Also, by coming here, by being here, it uses up just a couple hours of the school day as opposed to a field trip, which takes up an entire school day. And again, teachers get education packets as well. So that's, time's up.
Very good.
That's my music director.
Yes, I think so. I think so. Commissioners, do we have any questions?
Do you have, those like school visit, like a video or something online? Maybe we can take a look.
Yes, if you go to pacificchamberorchestra.org, there's an education tab. And on the education tab, there is a video that explains the Discover Music program. It goes into quite a bit of depth on it. Because like I said, every year we teach a different fundamental. Rhythm 1 year, harmony another year, acoustics another year, melody another year, scales another year. One program is postcards from around the world. We play musical scales, major, minor, chromatic, harmonic, minor, pentatonic, whole tone, chromatic, and we have these kids all naming these scales by ear by the time we're done. So it's an amazing program.
How many schools do you go to?
We had covered 2 schools, which is 4 assemblies, 2 assemblies per school. The proposal would get us to go to 4 schools. And Susan Fry, who is one of the VPs of the PTAs with more and talks to the other ones, has let me know that the schools really would like to have more of our program.
And do you rotate schools, or do you go to the same schools each time?
No, we try to rotate because obviously, you know, we want to hit everybody. But since the program does change each year, it would be nice to be able to go to all the schools that would like us every year. But since we can't, then we do alternate schools.
Thank you.
Since you're working in conjunction with the Pleasanton Unified School District at their facilities, I was wondering if the conversation has come up regarding Proposition 28.
No, we've not had that discussion with them directly on that. You know, I've had that discussion with some of the music teachers in the Livermore School District. And so I would imagine it's similar discussions here. And there's a lot of concern about how those dollars are actually going to be allocated, and what it's going to do to impact the teachers, positively and negatively, because there's ways upon which it's like the California lottery. At first the California lottery was supposed to increase funding for the schools, and then it wound up being something that actually filled the budget gap, as opposed to really increasing things.
Well, in this particular case, it's $1 billion.
Oh, I know how much it is. I know how much it is. All I'm simply saying is that it's a huge unknown, and there's no way for me to predict. And the school teachers are very worried about it because they know they've been burned before. I'm expressing to you what they've saying to me. So
one of the nice things about it, it's very specific because, and I'm pulling this from edsource.org, okay? And it says, California Public Schools in grades K through 12 and traditional forms of creative expression like music, theater, dance, visual arts, contemporary arts, filmmaking, animation, and graphic design. What's so specific about it is that it says creative expression like music right away.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
I mean, the importance of the arts is there. It's in the devil's in the details in terms of how it gets worked out. And I know.
Well, we just hope you would get involved in this discussion.
I'm sorry?
We just really hope you'd get involved in this discussion and see where it would go.
Well, I have been, and at a higher level too,
Oh,
because
okay,
I've
very
discussed
good.
with one of the Department of Education in California State in terms of all of this. And one of the things, and the reason why I say this is because there's really no mechanism for enforcing the use of the funds. It's $1 billion. I mean, it's going to go out there, and then so there's a lot of trust that's being done on how it's going to be used. And so I'm just expressing to you what I'm hearing, and it's not at the point to where it's something I can have a real impact on, because they don't really know how it's all going to be spread around and how it's going to be managed and how it's going to be, it's a lot. It's a big thing to figure out.
Well, thank you for your comments. We appreciate that you've been engaging in conversation with people
Working on it
regarding
hard.
this.
I mean, I'd like to have just a teeny piece of the pie for the orchestra and bring more programs to everybody. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. And commissioners, do you have any more questions? Okay, public comment is now closed.
Thank you.
Well, commissioners, we've heard from various speakers, and hopefully that's brought up some thoughts and ideas for you in terms of our next task, which is we're going to be taking a look at and allocating. In that sense, we're actually, remember, we're a recommending body. So we're recommending the allocations, okay? And then these recommendations go forward to the city council, and the city council would then make the funding for it. We can take these various grants in differing order than the chart that's in front of you, or we could take it specifically from in alphabetical order. So what is your druthers? What is your thoughts? Can we take it in order of how they were? On the chart, it's alphabetical. Would you like to proceed like that? Yes. It's in alphabetical order. Alliance for the Visual Arts is first. Okay.
Excuse me, Chair. I can also share that spreadsheet and enter numbers as you discuss, if you'd like, if that's helpful.
Sure.
Great.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay.
We have it in our packet, but I think that would be really nice. Thank you. There we go. Good. Okay.
I can do live edits as you give me numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I appreciate that. Okay. So is it consensus you would like to take it in the order as it appears in the chart?
Sure.
Okay, let's move ahead. Okay. The first grant application is Alliance for the Visual Arts. It's by Open Studios, TVAST, and what is requested is $5,000. And the votes on that were 6-0. And the average recommendation is $4,089. and staff recommendation is $3,800. So I'd like your comments on the first grant.
Are we going to go in a row, or how are we going to do comments?
Any way that you want to make a comment in charge of that. Do you have a suggestion?
I-
wants to speak. Do you want to go in a row?
Sure. I have a question before we start. As we're looking at this and discussing and making recommendations for amounts, can we go back and revisit? Because if we make recommendations and we get down to the end of the alphabet and there's no money left because we gave it to the top of the alphabet.
Yes,
Just wondering how
anytime you
that
want to make
works.
revisions, that's absolutely very. And I also like to welcome Commissioner Yee here, and who is now present. Okay, and our quorum is what? Have we met our quorum?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Okay, is Commissioner Fry part of the quorum?
Commissioner Fry will be voting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. So let's start with Commissioner Mundunden.
I think this program's really good. I like how it's impacting like 3,000 residents, and how like the cost per resident's about like $1 each. And I think like my recommendation would be like $4,000, which is like similar to the average recommendation.
Commissioner Fry?
I've been to this program and found it fascinating to be in studios and see the artist at work and listen to the artists discuss their process. And I think the speaker was absolutely right. It's really important to meet your audience. It's hard to do that if you're in a studio all by yourself. But to meet an audience and get their feedback and see who you're reaching is, I think, an important part of making and selling your art. So I would recommend, I would go along with the $4,000.
Okay. Staff recommendation was 3,800. I'm going back to you, Commissioner Mundunden. You're suggesting 4,000.
I think, yeah, around 4,000, but I can understand the 3,800 by the staff, since we have a lot of
Okay.
people.
Commissioner Fry, are you in agreement with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Commissioner Yee?
Yeah, I think the staff recommendation is fine.
Commissioner Farley Rogers?
Yes, I agree with the staff recommendation.
Commissioner Simmons?
I'm actually going to be some of those people coming up with a no vote on some of the ones in the future. So I allocated, because of that, I recommend the full $5,000. The cost per person is only about $1.50. It reaches a large number of people. It's a unique program, and it's a very well-run program, in my opinion, and they had a very good grant application. So my recommendation is the full $5,000.
Okay. Commissioner Bianchi?
Let me ask, what is the criteria that the staff uses for their recommendation?
So staff takes into consideration the commission's voting. The commission also allocates an amount, and then we look at the average of all of the commissioners' amount that they put in Zoom grants. And then also commissioners put in comments. Some commissioners put in comments for each, so we look at those. The criteria that the commission selects, and then just checking to make sure everything looks like it's in line with what's required.
Okay, my position would be to stay with a $4,000 recommendation with the ability to maybe come back and amend if we start running out of money.
I would also just like to add, the requests were over $60,000 and we
Right.
only have 40, so
No, I get that.
it's
I
a
get
tough it's a tough number. So this really is just a starting point.
Yeah.
The commission can discuss and put in whatever number.
Okay. Commissioner Song?
Yeah, I think the staff number is okay. It just, we only have 40K to allocate, yeah.
Okay, so I accept the 3,800 as a staff recommendation, and I think what I'm going to do in response to my vice chair here is take a look at putting a little star in there, so we might look at this, relook it at the end. Are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right. Because you did recommend 5,000. I don't want your recommendation to slide away, but, okay. This next grant that we're looking at is the Amador Valley, let me say that again, the Amador Livermore Valley Historical Society Museum on Main, an afternoon or evening with series, okay? So the amount requested was $7,500. The average recommendation was $6,628. The staff recommendation was $7,500.
And these, can I just, am I going out of order? Is it okay?
You're out of order, but let's go ahead.
And no one came tonight from Amador Livermore to make their pitch, right?
There is a person sitting in the room right now from the Museum on Main. Right.
They're not required to.
They're not required to speak, though they are required to be present.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Do you have a question?
No, I was just curious. My understanding of the program is a really great program, and it's very. Do we know what the cost per audience member is on this?
Oh my gosh, I'm spilling on the. It works out to be a little over $5 per person.
Okay. Then I would suggest that we go with the staff recommendation.
Okay, so I'm going to go back. Since we started to my left with Commissioner Song, would you make a comment, please?
Yeah, 7,500 is good. Yeah, Museum Maine is the most famous museum, representing Pleasanton. So, yeah, I agree. Yeah, full amount.
Okay. Commissioner Mundundan.
Yeah, I agree with the staff recommendation as well. Seems
Okay,
like a
thank
good
you.
program.
Commissioner Fry.
I think this is a very important part of our community, and I would agree with the staff recommendation as well.
Commissioner Yee.
I don't have any further questions. I agree.
Commissioner Farley Rogers.
No, I don't have any questions either. That's fine with me.
Okay, Commissioner Simmons.
My recommendation is to fully fund at $7,500.
And my recommendation is to fully fund it at $7,500. I think this particular program has a national reputation now, and it's grown over the years, and it checks all of our boxes off. So I'm really pleased that we're moving ahead with that one. The next is Shea Tsunami Foundation Black Excellence Project. The amount requested was $7,500. The average was $5,053, and the staff recommendation was $4,000. And so let's go back to Commissioner Song.
I agree with staff recommendation. It's just because the limited funding. Yeah, but I do appreciate this program. Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Bianchi?
I agree.
Okay. Commissioner.
You're still
playing
with that water. Yeah, I don't want to short out the system. So I am not of the thought that we need to fund everything just because they apply. Not that their application was any less than the others. My opinion, and I am the no on this one. I was the one that declined. My thought is, number one, I brought it up in the conversation before with the presenters. It's an extremely high cost per person, anywhere from $200 to $445 per person. I don't think it's a good use of money, even though it's a valid endeavor. I don't discount that. However, I do feel it is more warranted for a youth grant. And that was the other reason why I voted against it completely, because I think we should devote our funds to some of the other things that we have in front of us. I think this would be very applicable to a youth grant, and I understand they're applying for one. So my recommendation is $0.
Okay. Commissioner Farley Rogers.
Yeah, my recommendation is 3,700.
Commissioner Yee.
I have kind of a hard thing, a difficult thing understanding, the Prop 28 money and the programs that are all working with the school districts, because I just feel like they're not, the school district's very open to partnerships and collaboration, and I'm a little bit surprised that those conversations haven't gone deeper about how they can work the funding into, I think it was said that the school sites have to have it as part of their program. So then why isn't it part of a school site program? Because then they could apply for the money from the school site to pay for the program. So I'm kind of feeling that way for everyone who's working in this with the school districts. But, I mean, given what the program does, I kind of agree with, it probably could be funded really more appropriately from the Youth Commission than from the Arts Commission. But I'm fine really either way. If we didn't fund this particular one at 4,000, that 4,000 could be divided towards the other ones that aren't fully funded.
Okay.
So I guess I could go either way, but that's just.
Let's talk to the remaining two commissioners, and we might have a consideration to move ahead at a later time on that. So Commissioner Fry.
I disagree with the staff. I disagree with the staff recommendation, and I would recommend that this one is fully funded. I think this reaches an underrepresented group in our community that is quite often overlooked. This gives these not only students but their families an opportunity to look deeply at their own culture and to bring that culture to the rest of the community so that we can look at it with less of a tunnel vision and more of a diversity of the African cultures. So I think, to me, this is the most important grant on this table today, and I recommend that it's fully funded.
Thank you. Commissioner Mandandan?
I agree with the staff recommendation on this.
Okay, we have 2 no's. We're possibly taking a look at this being a teen grant. And considerations that range from $3,700 to $7,500. So my suggestion would be that we hold those in consideration and not necessarily make the decision right now. And as we move through the rest of the grants, maybe come back and take a look at this one. What is your feeling about that?
Seems fair.
Okay, let's try it that way then. And the next grant that we're looking at is the East Bay Musical Society, and it's the 24-25 season. The amount requested was $4,000. The average recommendation was $3,063, and staff recommendation was $2,700. So this is the East Bay Musical Society. Let's kind of shake things up here. We started here once before. Okay, let's go this way.
I'm generally supportive of this program. I wish I could sing. It's one of those things I dream of. That's neither here nor there. Neither here nor there, though. The largest amount of money spent on this particular program is on salaries, which troubles me a little bit. Per person cost is pretty high. It's about $80 per person. And my only other concern is that it's a moving target, this organization, and I applaud them for reconstituting and trying to get everything together, but it seems like it might be not the most stable organization at the time, so I am recommending a yes, but I'm recommending it in the amount of $2,000. but I think the staff recommendation is 2,700, so I would feel comfortable with that.
Well, would you state that again? Would you feel comfortable with 2,700, or are you proposing 2,000?
I can be comfortable with 2,700.
Okay.
This is staff recommendation.
All right, okay. Commissioner Farley Rogers?
I think it should be the staff 2,700.
Okay. Commissioner Yee?
Same.
Commissioner Fry?
I agree with the staff recommendation.
Commissioner Mandandan?
I agree with the staff recommendation.
I'm just going to call you Commissioner Grace. Okay. Commissioner Song?
Yeah, 2,700 is okay.
Commissioner Bianchi?
Yeah, I have a personal affinity for this particular group, but I think that the 2,700 is within the range of what we should be looking at.
Okay, thank you. Personally, I had a consideration with this one because there was a discussion regarding the salary increase to the music director. And I don't want to set the tone that a grant is going to be used almost as a bypass towards paying for salary increases. So I think I know the direction you're going, but I really would like to see that language a little bit better if there's a future grant application. Okay. And I will, yes, concur that 2,700. Okay, so I think we have now cleared that, if that's in agreement with you.
Yeah,
Marion.
definitely.
Okay, all right. So then 2,700 is agreed upon. All right.
Excuse me, Chair. Can I add a comment?
Yes.
So in the numbers of how much it is per person, that number is per member. They did not provide a number for the audience members, so that number is not included in that. I just take the exact number that they provide and then do the math from there. So they gave a number for their members, and that's where the 80 comes from. Just wanted to make that clarification.
The next grant we're looking at is the Livermore Valley Performing Arts Center East Bay Jazz Community Concert. The amount requested was $4,225. The average was $3,579. Staff recommendation is $3,000. So, Commissioner Mandandan?
I agree with the staff recommendation.
Okay. Commissioner Fry?
I would agree with the staff recommendation as well.
Commissioner Yee?
Same.
Commissioner Farley Rogers?
For that one, I thought 3,700.
Okay. Commissioner Simmons?
I think this program reaches a diverse and fairly large audience in the high school realm. It's a little bit lower cost per participant than some of the others. I think it's unique, and my recommendation was for full funding at $42.25, considering that I have a no vote on a couple of other things for funding. So I had allocated a little bit more money to it than the staff recommendation.
All right. Commissioner Bianchi?
I would go with the staff recommendation.
Okay. Commissioner Song?
Yeah, I agree, staff recommendation.
And for me, I have attended some of these events, and they're amazing musicians. And I'd like to give them. I'd like the youth to have that opportunity to continue excelling this particular area. So my recommendation is to go beyond the 3,000 staff recommendation and to go to 3,700. So now we have a staff recommendation of 3,000, 2 recommendations at 3,700, and 1 recommendation at full funding at 2,225. And I didn't mean to complicate things. So what would you like to do?
Well, I think 3,700 is a good compromise.
Okay. And
Yeah,
Commissioner
okay.
Song?
Yeah, either, yeah.
Okay. So that's 2 votes for 3,700. Commissioner Simmons?
I can go with that as well, the higher amount, 37.
All right.
Yeah, and I said that before, so.
Yes, you
3,700,
did. You brought the number up, yes.
Yeah.
So, of course you put it for it. Okay, Commissioner Yee, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay, Commissioner Fry?
I'm going to stay with the staff recommendation of $3,000.
Okay. And Commissioner Mundundan?
I agree with 3,700.
Okay, so we have two with the staff recommendation at 3,000, and the rest of the commission is heading towards that 3,700. So what is your considerations?
Can we put the 3,700 and revisit when we tally up and see what else
We certainly could do that. We have two votes at 3,000, and the remaining votes are at 3,700. So I'll make that notation, and then we can revisit this one. Is that the commission's interest?
Yes.
Okay, we'll proceed that way then. All right. Pacific Chamber Orchestra, clinics for middle and high school string students. Amount requested was $2,500. Amount recommendation was $2,250. Staff recommendation was $2,000. Commissioner Song?
Yeah, it's within what I recommend, giving the a budget limit. Yeah, I agree with staff.
The staff recommendation. Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bianchi?
I personally had allocated 2,500 for this because of the amount of people that it reaches. So that would be my preference.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Simmons?
I also had a recommendation of 2,500, but I could live with the staff recommendation of 2,000.
Okay. Commissioner Farley Rogers?
Yes, I had a recommendation of 2,500.
Okay. And Commissioner Yee?
I'm okay with the staff recommendation, but I'm just going to say again, I really think all the programs that are working with the school districts really need to look into the state funding, because even though it's 80% allocated for staffing and 20% for programs, if you're really working with those school sites if they really want your program, the program could be included in their 20%. So I just really hope that everybody's going to have those conversations, but I'm fine with the staff recommendation.
Commissioner Fry?
I've seen personally how these programs affect children in the school. As a teacher for 30 years, it's very powerful. So I'm going to recommend the $2,500.
Okay. Commissioner Mundundan?
I agree with the $2,500, but $2,000 if we don't have enough money after we finish.
Well, my consideration really has to do with Proposition 28, and I fully understand the proposition and the complications as its rollout, but it certainly is an avenue that, in terms of organization and cooperation with the school district and so on, I'd like that to be pushed forward. I think this is a tremendous opportunity in the arts field, and I'd like that communication to happen. And for that reason, I would vote at 2,000. So we have some votes at 2,500. We have others at 2,000. And what's your best thought?
Maybe later do weighted average. How many people? 25. How many people?
This will be the third one that we've set aside. So
Why don't we go with the staff recommendation then?
You'll go with the staff
2,250, is that it?
Actually, the staff
that's our
recommendation is-
average, pardon me. That's our average,
the
pardon me.
staff recommendation is 2,000.
So if we cut it in the middle, are people comfortable with the average in the middle?
2,250.
2,250?
Are you okay with 2,250?
Yes.
Yes?
Do 2,250.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. I have a question for Rachel. The staff recommendations, when you add them all up, they add up to 40,000. Thank you.
There isn't any extra money.
It's a big checkbook.
Right, yes. We got to balance that out. So let me just confirm, that your recommendation is $2,250 for Pacific Chamber Orchestra clinics for middle school and high school string students, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. The next consideration is Pacific Chamber Orchestra Discover Music Elementary in-school assembly program. Requested was $7,500. The average recommendation was $4,394. Staff recommendation was $4,000. And Commissioner Song.
Yeah, I think it's close to what I recommended. It's just because the budget limit. Yeah, mine a little bit lower because I want to add up 40K. So.
Okay. Commissioner Bianchi.
I would go with the staff recommendation.
Okay. Commissioner Simmons.
I really would love to see them increase this program, and I know that's what their goal is, because I think it's a really worthwhile program. You're looking at a really low cost of only about $3.50 per student. They're asking for the increase to increase the program, get it to more schools. So I don't know. My vote was to not maybe make the huge jump from what they got before, which was $4,000 up to $7,500, but to cut it at the middle and go with a recommendation of $6,000. So they could indeed expand the program.
Okay. Commissioner Farley Rogers.
Yeah, I think I would go with the staff recommendation of 4,000.
Okay. Commissioner Yee.
I'm going to go with the staff's recommendation, but I'll sound like a broken record again. I do think that it's important to have that partnership with the particular schools to use their 20% for the program, for their program dollars to help get this to more kids at each school and to more school sites. So that conversation really needs to happen. But I'm fine with the staff recommendation.
Commissioner Fry.
I'll go with the staff recommendation.
Commissioner Mondan.
I agree with the staff recommendation.
And I also vote for the staff recommendation. So that is.
I'm the outlier.
Pardon me, say again.
I'm the outlier.
Well, yes, you're outlier at 6,000. Do we want to revisit this?
No, I don't think that's necessary, since it sounds like we have consensus with the rest of the group. So.
We do.
Yeah,
Okay. All
that's
right.
fine.
So then we'll confirm it at 4,000. Okay. Thank you very much. So just as a recap, because we have an outlier over here, Pacific Chamber Orchestra Discover Music Elementary in-school assembly program, we're recommending a funding of 4,000. Okay. Next one is the Pacific Chamber Orchestra, Pacific Chamber School Day Orchestra Matinee Concert. What was requested was $7,500. Average recommendation was $4,296. Staff recommendation was $4,000. So, Commissioner Mondandan?
I agree with the staff recommendation of 4,000.
Okay.
I also agree with the staff recommendation.
Commissioner Yee?
Same.
Commissioner Fry? Rogers?
Staff.
Okay. Commissioner Simmons? Oh, there she goes again.
Here we go again. No, only because I do have a couple of no votes. So I found extra money and found that these are very, very valuable programs. And again, reaching a large number of students, I had a recommendation of 6,500.
Okay. Commissioner Bianchi?
Well, the 4,000 was what I had recommended personally, so I'll go with the staff recommendation.
Commissioner Song?
Yeah, me too with the staff recommendation. Yeah, because the limited budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
And for the reasons of what we've already talked about with Proposition 28, I think 4,000 is my recommendation as well. So, would you like to speak to your consideration?
Well, the reason I kept it at 6,500 is I believe that's what it was last year. Hopefully I'm not mistaken in that, but I believe that's what it was last year, so.
So we have consensus. You're an outlier again. Do you want to speak to that? Do you have any
Well, I'm
questions?
an outlier because I have no votes on some others. Because again,
Okay.
I'm not of the feeling that just because we have 11 apply, that 11 need to be, are appropriate. And again, I was back to Shazanami with the youth grant, I thought was more applicable to them, so that left me more money for something that is obviously very, very fitting with our goals and objectives with this particular grant, where theirs I thought was a little bit more questionable for fitting with our grant in particular. So that's when I came up with the extra money, shall we say, and I believe that that is what they requested last year. So I had 6,500 was no cost increase for me from last year.
Okay.
That's how I came to that.
So what is your feelings that we move ahead with a recommendation of 4,000 as a consensus for the group, and then maybe possibly look at revisiting at the end again? Is that a consideration for you?
Yeah, that would be my preference because, again, I think we need to revisit a couple of other grants that, in my opinion, are worthwhile to be funded at this time. So,
Okay. What does the commission feel? Can we move ahead in that direction?
I believe so.
Temporarily, consider the 4,000 and at the end, maybe relook at it. Is that okay?
Yep.
Did I get a yes from everyone here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll put a little revisit here at the end. Okay. The next grant is the Pleasanton Community Concert Band. Project is music library storage. Amount requested was $6,200. Average recommendation was $3,119. Staff recommendation was $3,000. Let's see. Okay, Commissioner Farley Rogers, you start it this time.
Yeah, I think I would go with the staff recommendation, 3,000.
Okay, Commissioner Yee?
I can't remember if this was addressed by the speaker or not, but is this storage issue going to be another issue again next year? Or is this towards the permanent solution?
It's permanent.
My understanding that it was a permanent solution. Okay, so once they get their storage unit this year, then they'll be good.
Correct.
Okay, I'm fine with the staff recommendation.
Okay, Commissioner Fry?
I'll agree with the staff recommendation.
Commissioner Mondondon?
I agree with the staff recommendation.
Okay, Commissioner Bianchi?
I'll go with the staff recommendation.
Commissioner Song?
Yeah, actually, I like this group. I saw them in farmers market. If we could give them a little bit more, because I think, they have many years of inventory of the music sheet. They need some place. If we could help them to find the storage one way or the other, a little bit more will be good. Maybe $4,000.
Okay, thank you. Yes, go ahead. Commissioner Simmons.
So as an archivist in another life, I understand this predicament, and I completely agree with Commissioner Yee in that they need to look at digital resources seriously for the future. You have to, because there's so many considerations with your paper and manuscript issues. I understand that. However, I'm going to guess that some of their material may not even be able to be found digitally, and these are going to be the paper documents that have arranging notes and all those kinds of things that I'm not aware of because I am not a musician, but they're going to have a lot of different notes on them, and they're very valuable to the organization, and I think it's an excellent organization. So my recommendation was for $3,900. That is the actual price that they've put out for the storage container. So that gives them the little bit more that you were asking for, but that actually would fund the actual container, and I figured they could come up with the shelving and the delivery and the labor on their own, but $3,900 is my recommendation.
So it's to my understanding, we have one proposal for $3,900. All the remaining commission proposals are for $3,000, including mine. So what is your thoughts now to move ahead?
I proposed the $4,000. Yeah, I'm okay with 3,900 for them. Yeah.
Well, 3,900 is what they have in the budget for
Yeah,
the actual
yeah.
container. So I
Yeah.
feel if we're giving them, we can actually give them a chunk of money to buy the actual resource that they're asking for, and they can provide the additional labor and everything that goes along with it, as long as they're going to assure that they're going to keep pests and water and everything out of this and preserve their documents properly.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
My thought about a tablet, and I'm not a musician either, but when I see the sheet music that an orchestra person uses or a band uses, they're not this big, they're this big.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's going to be hard for them to go totally digital.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
would recommend the 3,900 as well.
Okay. Are there other comments, commissioners?
I just want to say that I have a lot of experience with doing a storage thing in storage containers, and it kind of makes me nervous that we're doing a storage container and not like an official, document paper storage place that's really, humidity controlled and environmental controls, because that's really what you should be doing if you're really trying to preserve paper, not go in a storage unit. I don't really feel like it's a long-term solution, and that's why I keep asking, is this like it? Are we going to do anything else? Because I just think there's some other option in between a storage unit under a shaded tree versus going digitally. Maybe it's a combination of a couple different things. So I don't know. This is a hard one. I get the dilemma with finding storage. What does our library say about this? Have we talked to the library? I mean, what? Yeah, I don't know. But I'm just, I'm $3,900 is not a whole lot for a container. That is about how much they usually cost. Right now that COVID is over and people aren't trying to get them for different things. But I just feel, long term, I really think there needs to be some other thought to this. And those are, to me, the music is, part of our city's history because of this long time community band. So, it's not like I'm not sympathetic to the storage of the music, but I just feel like we really need to maybe even help in some other way of coming up with a better storage solution that it's much more safe. But yeah, I'm fine with 39 or 3,000, whatever we net out. Yeah.
Rachel, can we bring up Les Dumont, please?
Yes, you can.
It's still me.
Thank you. Can you give us a little bit more detail on this storage unit?
Okay.
Please.
Is the microphone actually working, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So here's what we've done so far. Our new band director is Mark Abel, who, does anyone not know who he is? Okay, cool. And Bob Williams is still alive and kicking, so we have his input. Lee Carpenter, who's retired band director from Dublin High School, he's also in our band. And John Ingram, who I think he's turned it over to his son now, Ingram Bronze Music. So these people were all involved in what are we going to do. So we first discussed this probably 5 years ago about storage, maybe even further, because the Bernal property, the city was going to have storage facilities for nonprofits. That would have been great. But that didn't happen. And so we decided last year, after we got the container that we use for our equipment, we would put some copies, as I said earlier, not copies, but music that we had multiples of. So it was the same paper and everything that it comes in. And these are pieces that are already 20, 30 years old, some of them 40 years old. And we put them on the hot side of the container, and they've been there. Well, let me see. So it was right around January. I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm going to do the grant for it, and we'll see what happens. So one thing I didn't put in, I don't think, in the application is we already have music storage cabinets. They're like archive cabinets where what's holding the music is inside of a box, and then that rolls out, and they're somewhat, they're not hermetically sealed, but it keeps bugs out, and it helps insulate. Is it possible that the inside of the trailer could be 154 degrees? Was it 154 degrees quite a few times last summer? Yes, it was.
So you're, excuse me, but you're talking, this container is literally a boxcar? A trailer?
bingo, exactly.
It's a boxcar.
Watertight, airtight storage container that goes on ships for 2 weeks.
Okay. But you're saying then within that, you have specifically designed filing systems for your music or filing cabinets for your music?
Library people, you know what it's exactly what the music is stored in Bob Williams' garage right now. And it's just the garage in his house, which maybe it's somewhat temperature controlled, but he doesn't have heating or air conditioning in his garage. And that's where the music's been for the last almost 30 years. And your idea was wonderful. I was just saying if we got enough money for the container, it takes us a while to level it, get the inside painted and everything, and then we'll figure out how to start putting shelving in. So, any other questions?
Are there questions?
And what are all the other options that you've explored? I mean,
Well,
have you talked to the library to help out with?
Oh, no, we didn't ask the library for their expertise because I didn't know if I could ask my wife. She worked in archives at California Academy, and I forgot to ask her. We have looked into the digital. I mean, someday, yes, digital. When tablets are inexpensive or it's something where everybody has a rollout, or that could be. But right now, we're looking at, $500 to $700 per tablet, and we would need 80 of those to get started. And then there's still everything that gets involved in transferring it. Because I would say maybe 15% of the music we have is out of print. When you're talking about e-music, any new music, we can buy e-music, but you're absolutely correct. Probably half of our library, at least, is not available because it was published that long ago.
Did you look at any off-site storage?
That if you're talking about so we know exactly how much your run-of-the-mill storage container is. I mean, to hold all of that music, so we're paying about $4,000 a year for what we had before. It'd be another it'd probably be at least a $600 to $800 a month storage unit. So then we're looking at $7,000 to $10,000 a year, and it's not as watertight and airtight as a shipping container.
For an indoor storage unit?
Okay, again, it would be an indoor storage unit. It would probably be more, because we definitely wouldn't want one that's up on the upper floors. So, and again, that's a 20 by 20 space. So I'm probably wrong. It's probably a couple $1,000 a month to rent that. And then if you go into temperature controlled, then it's even more. But ultimately,
I just really caution you on this storage unit. They're 40 feet and whatever the normal shipping containers are, but they do leak. They do have issues with it because I have personal experience with this using it at my job. Right. And they've actually even put like a air circulator thing inside of it to keep it from getting too hot.
And you can do dehumidifiers as well.
But then it's still, it still leaks. You could plug in a dehumidifier with it if you have somewhere to plug it in. But I just don't, I'm just going to caution you guys, I just don't think it's a great long-term solution. You're going to have to think of something different for that 15% of music that isn't in print anymore, that is just only on paper.
Oh, some of the stuff that is not just out of print, but there's very few copies. Those, we've already scanned a lot of those. So if we scanned them and stored some of them. No, I mean, part of this is based on, again, the hundreds of thousands of shipping containers that are on the ocean. The vast 99% of them, if they're supposed to be watertight, airtight, they are. And then they have all different levels of containers and what the locking mechanisms are and that sort of thing. But anyway, if we had funding for a bunch of pads and digitize and pay to have those hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours to digitize all the music that is not available in e-music, we would do that in a heartbeat.
So right now you feel like you don't have any other options at this point. You have to move out of the garage. You have to have a space.
Right. And we have spent, I don't know how many man hours talking with different businesses where it's inside of somebody's business building. But we have to have access. You can't do it just, and doing it during the workday is pretty much out of the question, doing it on weekends. Yeah, and then there's the liability. And our insurer will not insure our music if it's stored in another location, if it's somebody else's business location, unless their insurance carries that as well.
So is this going to be insured?
Pardon?
Is this going to be insured?
Oh, the music is insured now.
It is. Okay.
Oh, and our insurance, our insurance may drop if it's not in Bob's house. But yeah, with the music
It
is
is,
our
okay, because it's probably your most valuable asset, short of your,
absolutely.
sort of your people.
It's easily probably a couple $100,000.
Yeah. Okay, so it is insured right now.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, I thought the library may be a good place to put it, right? For some precious one.
But again, it's the space, it's a liability, and if you do it, but I hear a lot, and it's nothing wrong with it. If it's somebody does something like that for us, then every other nonprofit that needs storage is going to want it. So I got to be sensitive to the demands that are put in the city too.
Yeah, this is a little different though. These are almost, that 15% you're talking about is almost historical documents for the, for the community band. So it could, I don't know, I would encourage you.
More than happy to walk in the library.
Yeah, I would encourage you to talk to the library,
Yeah, yeah.
but anyway, I could go 39 or 3,000, but I just hope that this isn't the end of your storage journey.
No.
As it doesn't sound like it should be the end.
Someday in a not too distant future, I'm sure it'll all be digital. So,
Thank you. Then that concludes our questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing is that there was some consideration of 3,000 and further considerations of 3,900.
Yes,
So if I can ask you to restate where you are so I can better understand what's going on, that would be helpful, I think. So Grace, what were you considering?
I agree with the 3,900.
Okay. And let me just remind you again, this is music library storage. What was requested was 6,200. Average recommendation was 3,119. Staff recommendation was 3,000. Your recommendation is 3,900. Okay, Commissioner Fry.
I'm going to stay with the staff recommendation of 3,000.
Okay. Commissioner Yee.
I think I'll stay at the staff recommendation as well.
Okay, Commissioner Farley Rogers.
I'll go with the 3,900.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Simmons.
3,900.
Okay. Commissioner Bianchi.
3,900.
Okay. Commissioner Song.
3,900.
Okay. Commissioner Coleman Knight says 3,900. Thank you for these further considerations. So it looks like we have two people voting, or two commissioners voting for 3,000. The remaining, the commissioners have upped that to 3,900. Are we in agreement now? Is that a consensus? So we can move forward with the staff recommendation of 3,900? Can I hear aye? Yes? No?
Yes.
Okay, good. Song?
Pardon?
She just wants you to say yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
yes.
I
yes.
want you to
I
tell
thought
me
I
yes
already
or no.
Nod your head.
Is that what I'm hearing then?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right. So the recommendation is now 3,900. I should remind you, I recused myself from both of these grants, and what I will do is conduct the meeting, but I will not make any comments at the end, and neither will I vote. Okay? All right. Let me introduce this item, Pleasanton Cultural Arts Council, and the project is called City Stories. The amount requested was $3,600. Average recommendation was $2,840. Staff recommendation was $3,000. So I'm going to ask Simmons, Commissioner Simmons, would you lead this discussion, please?
Okay, we'll start with Commissioner Grace.
I agree with the staff recommendation of 3,000.
Commissioner Fry.
Is this the request to purchase?
This is the City Stories. I believe that's
Yes.
the first one.
Yes.
This is the City Stories.
But was this the one that the person was carrying the binder around?
Yes.
And okay, then I go with the staff recommendation of 3,000.
Commissioner Yee.
I agree. I've seen that binder. It's big.
Commissioner Farley Rogers, yes.
3,000, yeah, staff recommendation.
Commissioner Song.
I think I like to have fully funded so that they can have the iPad, to have the city incorporate our public art in their existing historical walk. I think it's very reasonable for the long term too. Yeah.
Oh, wait, they wanted two
Yeah, there's two
iPads, right?
parts to
small
this.
one
It's a
and
little
big one.
convoluted. Yeah, but it's one, so it's one, and that's kind of a concern I have as well. It's a little convoluted, but
Okay.
do you want to change your recommendation?
Yeah, I'm gonna change to fully fund.
Commissioner Bellacci?
3,600.
Okay, so at first, this was one that I personally was only going to request funding at 900. I was a yes, but only going to request the funding for the supplies, with a question actually to the staff, and that is the staff not funding at all the supplies for these community programs?
Staff does fund the supplies for the cultural celebrations, and what we do is work with organizations, invite them to table. And I think what this application does is provide PCAC supplies for their table and activities through the celebrations. So it's a partnership with different organizations, but they would be purchasing supplies for whatever activity they're bringing.
At their table. Okay, Thank you for the clarification. So that originally was my recommendation, was just for that amount. But in hearing more about the binder, and not forgetting, though, that my first thought is I really think the city should be taking the lead on public art and public art tours. I have no problem with partnering with the Museum on Main, but I honestly think it's the city that needs to be taking the lead on this. But with that said, this sounds like the city is in agreement that it would be a nice addition to a tour that's already happening. So I will go with the recommendation of the staff recommendation as well, 3,000. Any other comments? So I think we're on 3,000 with that one.
Well, how many did we have at 3,600?
There were 3 at 3,600.
But I'll go with the staff recommendation.
Who was left at 3,600? Was that you?
Yeah, I want 3,600.
Yeah, two of us.
Can we compromise between 3,600 and 3,000? I'm trying to look at the figure and see what we've got left. We still have some other considerations to make. I know you can't get a donation of an iPad. That's virtually impossible, but could they do it for less? Or how many do we have at 3,600 then?
2.
And the rest at 3,000?
Yeah.
How strongly do you feel at 3,600?
I think it's very, it's really valuable. I think because Jan has written a lot of story about our public art, and the Museum on Main, they can incorporate all those public art, not all, right? Some of them on the routes, it has huge potential.
Yeah, you can add a lot more.
A couple iPad, it's really very low budget. I thought it's already.
Yeah.
They already have trying to recruit a volunteer to start a tour too, to help them. So I think it's a very minimum request. $3,600 is very minimum.
I think that it would make the tour person experience it's easier for the staff person, but the person who's on the tour, it would actually improve their experience, because looking at an iPad versus looking at papers inside of a binder with the plastic page cover things over it is just not as nice or easy to look at. And then you also can put so much more on an iPad than you could ever carry around in a binder. So I think it would improve the experience.
Also, they can scan, and maybe they will put on the website, with the picture too, rather than to people.
Yeah, and if it's already done all digitally on an
Mm-hmm.
iPad, why couldn't I just go and download it onto my phone and look at it on my phone while I'm on the tour?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the iPad, but you should look at the budget, because they also include $1,400 for outreach and promotion.
I thought that's on the next line, the outreach and promotion.
That's on this budget for the city stories.
Oh, for the city stories.
Yeah, $1,400 for promotion. And if the Museum on Main is taking the lead on this, do we need to include $1,400 for promotion?
Well, I always say that if it's great when you plan programs, but if nobody knows about it, then what's the point of planning the program? So,
But the tours are already happening, so people know about them.
well,
And
but
the
more-
Museum on Main is taking the lead on the tours.
more people could know about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. You know, $1,400. They're looking at. I just found that the grant, if you really read through the grant, it's extremely convoluted. We go from supplying money for the cultural events, for materials, then we go from supplying an iPad, and those two things we can kind of wrap our arms around. But then it's $1,400 to contract with a skilled person or persons to recommend and execute a successful marketing plan and raise arts visibility. That doesn't have anything to do with the program with the Museum on Main. Nothing.
Yeah, because I don't think the walking tour is very publicized.
But if you
shall
read
say.
did you read it? It doesn't mention the walking tour at all. It talks about raising the arts visibility. I found the grant, several pieces kind of convoluted. I have no problem in providing for the iPad. That's why I would go with the lower amount. But if I haven't changed any minds, then that's fine. I just don't find a lot of accountability in how the money's going to be spent in this vague promotion and publicity thing.
Yeah, I'm mainly just talking from my experience because I never heard about this tour before until I went to the Museum Main. Somehow they mentioned about. Otherwise, nobody really knows about. So I thought you're right. Actually, the city should take the lead for the public art tour. But I think it's a nice pivot now that they are working together. If they can incorporate the public art along the routes when possible. Yeah. Also, I think there's so much potential for the city tour because I only took the Angela route. There's another Main Street and others. I would love to join those tours, and I would love to explore that too. Yeah.
Okay, can I get just a straw poll again real quick? Grace, what were you at?
Just the staff recommendation of 3,000.
Staff recommendation.
3.
36.
Jean?
I think I went with the staff.
I'll go with the staff. I think personally I would give less, but I'll go with the staff. So that's 4. John?
Staff.
5.
Yeah.
36.
Yeah, 36. Maybe
Okay.
they can do an average or something.
We're
but,
5
yeah.
to 2, so I'm going to call it at the staff recommendation of 3,000.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and the last one is again from the Pleasanton Cultural Arts Council. This is for the newsletter creation and associated outreach. We'll start at this end again. Grace, do you have any comments? The recommended staff amount is $3,000.
Yeah, I agree with the recommendation.
I'll go with the recommendation as well from the staff.
Okay.
Staff recommendation.
Jean?
Staff recommendation looks good.
Staff recommendation.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah,
Okay, I'm going to be the outlier again. No, it's fine. If I'll say my piece, and if I don't convince anybody. I was one of the people that voted against this particular grant. Again, they're asking for, and now we've given them money in the previous grant for generic marketing and generic outreach. So here they're looking again at more marketing and more outreach, which in general I don't have a problem with, except I wasn't convinced from the grant that they have a complete understanding of best practices right now. Newsletters aren't best practice really for marketing. Money would be better spent on digital marketing, targeted and segmented mailings, enhancing their website, bumping social media. Mailed newsletters are just not on trend, and I didn't see anything in the grant that indicated they were leaning towards, looking at, or had any kind of expertise in that kind of marketing, as opposed to just a straight up newsletter, and I just don't find it's best practice. So that's my 2 cents on why I voted no on that one. If anybody else has any other comments?
Yeah, I totally agree with your point. You know, if they can do optimize of search engine and doing social media, I think, you know, definitely, you know, that's a good way to explore. So I was wondering if the, you know, certainly the applicant, they are not professional marketer, right? So they probably need some professional help. You know, they need to hire some professional, like.
Yeah, I think it is to hire, and that was most of it was to hire.
Yeah. So that's the part I think would cost them money, because, you know, the applicant, they are all volunteer based. Nobody gets paid. So I think itself is pretty good statement. You know, they're not get paid. Yeah.
Any other comments? I was the outlier on this, so I can go with the staff recommendation as well.
Okay, 3,000.
Of 3,000. Now we have to tally and revisit, and I'll turn it back over to Jan.
Yay, we have extra money.
Oh my goodness.
No, we don't.
No, we
no,
don't.
we don't. We have a few we have to visit
No,
again.
we have 2 that we're going to be visiting. So if you would go back up to Shea Tsunami Foundation, Black Excellence Projects. The amount requested was $7,500. The average was $5,053. Staff recommendation was $4,000. When we took a look at it, there were various votes for $4,000, $3,700, and $7,500. So.
And a 0 for me.
And 0, yes. So we have quite a range to work here. What is your consideration?
I'd like to see this organization get something. I'm looking at our funding criteria and priorities and the 6 bullets, and they meet every bullet on the funding criteria. And I think they're the only grant that's asking for monies to target a specific group that's often, maybe always overlooked, and I'd not like to overlook a group that's targeting this specific cultural group in our city. Because when they reach this group and they expand to the families and they expand beyond the families to our community, I think we all gain, and we all are richer in understanding of the African culture. So I'd like to see them get some monies and not be totally overlooked.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Rachel, I think it would be helpful if you would tell us how much money is left.
2150.
Yeah, 2150.
I just added that at the bottom of the spreadsheet.
We have 2150 left.
Rachel, can you tell me if we've ever had an organization, to your knowledge, that has gotten grants from both Civic Arts and from the youth program?
Not to my knowledge.
Because they are applying for the youth grant as well, which is, personally for me, I think it's a better fit. Thank you.
But I think that's if I'm looking for money, I'm going to go everywhere and ask everyone for money and not want to be excluded because one commission gave money and one didn't.
Yeah, I agree with Miss Fry's comment. I think I like to give Chazanami some funding. They didn't come back. I remember when I first started this commission, they were applying, but then they took some time off. And I did see their show before, so I think they are very representative of underrepresented population. So I think it's good, to give them some funding. Yeah.
Well, now that I'm looking at it, I just know, thank you for doing the math there. That's 2150 left.
Yeah.
Okay. And we are looking at two applicants, the Shea Tsunami Foundation, and the second applicant is the Livermore Valley Performing Arts Center East Bay Jazz Community Concert.
The only application that the commission did not put a number in for is the Black Excellence Project.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I would suggest.
Oh, well, so we did fund the Livermore Valley Performing Arts Center East Bay
We were going
Jazz.
to go back and look if we had money left over.
Yes.
So I would say the 2150. For me, it's an easy vote to give that to the Chizunami.
Okay.
Yeah, and I could go along with that because I think I was the outlier on some of the other funding. So as much as I'd prefer to have some more money go to TVAST, I could. Everyone feels strongly about it, so I could personally make a recommendation for the 2150 to go to Shea Tsunami.
Shea Tsunami Foundation. Okay, and I'm also hearing that you do not want to revisit any of the other grants. Is that true?
I can let those go because it seems like the group has very strong feelings about Shea Tsunami. So
Okay. All right. So then can I get some kind of an idea? Grace, are you, we're looking at the Shea Tsunami Foundation. Are you suggesting 2150?
I would go with the staff recommendation of 4,000, but I can settle for
Well, I would go
2150.
with the 4,000 too, but there's only 2150
Yeah,
left.
yeah, I get it, yeah.
Well, we'd have to go back and chisel away from other things.
Yes, right.
Well, and I think that's fine. I don't think that we should say here you get the leftovers. I'm looking at the Livermore Valley Performing Arts Center that we agreed 3,700 with two people saying 3,000. So if we reduce that to 3,000 and put the 700 up to Shea Tsunami, I think then, we're getting closer to the $4,000 recommendation at 2,850 would be my recommendation.
I can go along with Commissioner Fry's suggestion.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
As well, me as well.
So Commissioner Fry, would you restate that for us?
Yes, for line item 7 for the Livermore Valley Performing Arts Center, reduce that from 37 to 3,000, and up to line item number 5, increase that by $700 to 2,850.
Okay.
Okay, there you have it.
40,000 doesn't get you what it used to.
So, Commissioner Farley Rogers, what is your comment?
Let's see, what was it before for the Livermore Valley Performing Arts Center?
37.
It was 30.
It was 3,700.
Yeah, 37.
It was 3,700.
37, yeah, I wanted to stick with the 37 for them.
Okay.
I think we should go with what we have here on the spreadsheet, 3,000 for the Performing Arts Center and 2,850 for the Chizunami. These programs, I don't know that much about it, but I just know that they don't grow unless they're being done.
Well, I really have seen, the East Bay Jazz Community Concerts, a number of them, and I'm really very much in favor of what this does for these young musicians that are freshmen in high school up to seniors, okay? And then it's really interesting to see where they go beyond that. I personally would like to stay at 3,700, but I understand what you're trying to do, and the answer is we don't have enough revenue. So, part of this whole thing.
Yeah.
So if we come to a consensus, as Commissioner Fry put forward as an idea there, so the assigned number for, or the recommended number for Shea Tsunami would be what? It'd be 2,850,
Yeah.
is that it?
Yes.
Correct. And then the recommended number for East Bay Jazz Concert would be 3,000. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's find out if that math works. Okay, what do you think, Rachel?
It does equal 40,000.
Okay, good. Our checkbook just balanced. Okay. All right. I'm going to need a motion, please, to accept these numbers. I would suggest that you would read them back to us with each one of the foundation numbers so that we are clear about what that is. And then
Sure.
we could just
I
incorporate
have them
that
up
as
on
a-
the screen here too for the audience.
Yes.
And you have it in front of you as well.
I do.
Does
yes.
someone want to read a motion with these numbers?
Yes.
I think that would probably be.
That's what I'm really suggesting. Yes.
So you want a motion to recommend?
Yes.
All
This
right.
is a motion to recommend. We're not a funding organization. It's going to go to the city council. So if you would make the motion inclusive of these numbers as we go down, and so then the motion can be seconded and we can make that recommendation.
I make a motion that we recommend the following amounts to the City Council. Alliance for the Visual Arts, $3,800. Amador Livermore Valley Historical Society and Museum on Main, $7,500. Shea Zanami Foundation, $2,850. East Bay Musical Society, $2,700. Livermore Valley Performing Arts Center, $3,000. Pacific Chamber Orchestra Clinics, $2,250. Pacific Chamber Orchestra Discover Music, $4,000. Pacific Chamber Orchestra School Day, $4,000. Pleasanton Community Concert Band, $3,900. Pleasanton Cultural Arts Council, City Stories, $3,000. And Pleasanton Cultural Arts Council Newsletter, $3,000 for a total of $40,000 in grants.
And who would
I'll
like to
second.
second that motion?
I'll second.
Commissioner Yee is seconding that motion. Can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Biaki?
Aye.
Commissioner Farley Rogers? Aye. Commissioner Giancola? Oh, sorry. Commissioner Madadin?
Aye.
Vice Chair Simmons?
Aye.
Commissioner Song? Aye. Commissioner Yee?
Aye.
Chair Coleman Knight?
Aye.
And Commissioner Fry also says aye.
The motion passes.
Well, we still have one more item on our agenda. Yeah, no, this is item 6. Okay.
All right.
All right. And thank you for all the attention, the communications, the consideration. This is not easy work. It wasn't easy reading all the applications and so on. And, it really just, we need more money. That's really what we're looking at here. But thank you for all of your hard work. So that concludes number 5 on our agenda. And now we're moving to number 6, item 6, which is receive Civic's Art Project Status Report. And Rachel's been working really hard, and we're going to turn it over to her for more work. Okay. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you all, by the way.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. This last item here before you is the Civic Arts Project Status Report. And I'll just give a quick little plug for a couple of items on here. This Friday, we have a show at the Firehouse Arts Center. The T Sisters will be performing at 8 p.m. We have actually quite a bit of a lineup for March, and I'd love to invite you all to come check out a show. The T Sisters are actual sisters. They perform indie pop folk music, and it's supposed to be really good lineup that they have for us this Friday night. We also have a St. Patrick's Day show on March 15th, and then on March 23rd, I also wanted to share that the Tri-Valley Theater Company has put together a show. It's just a one-night show. It's a cabaret show called We Go Together, and I would love to see any of you there. And I also, again, want to put a plug for the newsletter. We do a digital newsletter monthly and also send reminders weekly of the shows and programs that are going on, and that, of course, also includes the cultural celebrations. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know.
What was the date of the cabaret?
Oh, yes, let me give that to you. I think March 23rd. Yes, March 23rd, 8 p.m. So if you sign up for our newsletter, if you have not yet, you'll receive all of the great reminders, the Harrington Art Gallery shows, our art classes that go on at the firehouse, and all the wonderful programs. That is all I have for you for that Civic Arts update.
Thank you. We'll now move to matters initiated by the Commission. Number 7, brief reports on any meetings, conferences, and/or seminars attended by the Commission members.
I went to the International Guitar Festival at the Bankhead. I would highly recommend you go next year. It was way better than I thought it was going to be. It was really, really well done. It was entertaining. It was a good production. They did a really good job.
Very good.
I'm in the process of directing Murder on the Orient Express in San Leandro. It opens April 6th and runs for 5 weekends. So I have flyers. I'd love for you all to come out and see our show in San Leandro.
Pleasanton Cultural Arts Council sponsors the YAY Awards, which is the Youth Excellence in the Arts Awards. And tonight was, at the stroke of midnight, is the last night that people can actually make application. And the fields are music, visual arts, literary arts, and Say Yes to Music. And Say Yes to Music is in honor of Don Lewis. And so it's going to be interesting to see how many applicants we have. It's a very popular competition. The winners of the first 3 categories that I mentioned each get $500, then $300, and $100. And the last Say Yes to Music, the winner of that competition gets $1,000. So it's a new competition that's been added and in memorial for Don Lewis.
Not for me.
Anything else? Well, that closes number 7 on our item. The future agenda items include the perennial QR codes, the 2014 cultural plan.
Isn't this 2024?
Right. I don't know. The next meeting will be Monday, May 6th at 7 p.m. at the City Council Chamber here at 200 Old Bernal Avenue. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.